Hi, welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be ranking the 26 books that I've read in the year 2025 so far. The first book of the year that I read was Howling Dark, a second Sun Eater book in Christopher Ruocchio's story. It is a very good book if you like the character Hadrian, and I am not a fan of Hadrian. That kind of sucks, just because you don't connect with the character. The story can still be good. Thankfully, that is what happens in this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I think I would give it a 3.5. Looking back on it, there's a lot of introspection, but what I think takes away from it is you're with Hadrian so long that if you don't like the character, it's just not going to be for you. And unfortunately, I didn't love it near as much as other people say. A lot of people say that the series picks up with Howling Dark. A lot of people say with Demon in White. I'm just going to continue the series and hope that it gets better. The next book I read was Knife of Dreams by Robert Jordan. This is his final book before he unfortunately passed. This is one of his best writings. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars at the time. Now, I couldn't go back and tell you what all the plot points are because this 14-book long series is a bit dense at points, especially coming out of book 9 and 10, where you don't have much happening. Book 11 is really the culmination of that, and that's why it's good, because throughout it you're getting plot points being resolved from 2 books. So I think it has that going for it. But I really enjoyed the plot points apparently, and the characters are amazing in this series. That's what you really read it for. My next book is Midnight Tides by Erikson. This is the 5th book in the Tales of the Malazan, Book of the Fallen, Malazan, either way. I really did like this book. I think looking back on it, I enjoy it more than I did at the time. There is a whole plot line that I just kind of forgot about. Don't enjoy the Lethery plotline near as much as the North plotlines, but there are some standout characters like Rulad, Tehol, Bug, so I give it a 4. My first 5-star of the year was To Green Angel Tower, Part 1. This is a long series, especially this book. It's about 1,000 and a few hundred pages. I remember enjoying it just as much as the first 2 books. Simon is such a relatable character, and I can't escape that. I think what Tad Williams does the best
I'm Tad. Still Tad. I'm always Tad.
with this character is the feeling of traumatization after a killing. I haven't seen a lot of other authors do that. The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson is my foray into the Cosmere. I had read books Stormlight 1 through 4 and the first saga of Mistborn. This is the second era. Now, I gave this book a 4 at the time. Looking back on it, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I think it because it has such a weak plot and such a weak conflict that doesn't stick with me at all, or it does stick with me for the wrong reasons, that I feel like it needs to be brought down a peg. I loved the world building so much that I gave it a 4 at the time. I am a world reading first kind of guy. Characters and plot end up coming second. A lot of the times, if you give me a good world, I'm going to enjoy the book. Continuing my journey within the Wheel of Time, The Gathering Storm is another 5-star book. Again, I don't remember a lot of these plot points until the very end, but I think Brandon Sanderson brought such a unique voice to the series. I don't think that he entirely copied the prose. Is this shit crooked? So the book is a 5-star out of 5 because of that. Green Angel Tower Part 2 is another 5 out of 5. Now this one, I do remember quite a bit about. It's meandering again, just because it's such a long story. Miriam L is, I think, my favorite female protagonist of all time right now. Simon, again, is the most relatable, and he really grows in this second half of the story. Joshua Lackhand is a hero, and he is my hero. I will forever remember him. He just stuck in my mind. And then you can't forget about, although I did, Isgramir. And Miriam L's relationship is just like a great father-daughter relationship, and I think everyone needs to read it. As you can tell, I usually don't rate books very poorly. I tend to enjoy my time reading, and so I tend to score high. But this, the 3rd Foundation book in Isaac Asimov's old science fiction series, Foundation, I don't think it's that great. I gave it a 2.5. The mule from the 2nd book is the best character, and he gets wiped from the story, basically, and the build into the second foundation just isn't near as interesting as the first time you go through it. The characters are just kind of sitting there debating with each other for like 100 or so pages.
Reporter mocked and mimicked him on
Wrong.
He has consistently denied what is
Wrong.
a very clear fact that
Wrong.
And then the story kind of ends. It's not that great. I read Wind and Truth this year, and I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 at the time. I would probably bump it down to a 3.5, thinking back on it, because I don't remember too many things that happened, and that is a problem. My comprehension has got better as the years progressed, but definitely with that book, I was just along for the ride. At this point, Stormlight Archive is about the journey, not the destination, which I know you've heard a million times, but I accept it. So I had a good time. I know a lot of people had problems with the use of modern language. That didn't bother me. The next book I read, actually I don't have a physical copy of, and it's not even fantasy. It's called Martyr by KadeJBooks with an exclamation mark. I gave this book another 2.5 stars, not because I didn't like it, but because I didn't enjoy it. I really couldn't get into the poetry aspect. Kade is a poet. I think I just don't mesh well with that. I usually skip like the Lord of the Rings poetry lines, any sing-song lines in books. I just didn't get into it. Now, it did have a good story at the very end, which brought it up from a bad book, I thought. And the themes were at least interesting enough. Next, I read Enemy of God. This is one of my favorite books I've read this year, even though I only rated it a 4.5 stars. These books are hard for me to rate 5 out of 5 just because they are so brutal, and that's not my forte. I don't necessarily love that. However, the historical aspect of it made me enjoy it a lot better. The book follows an Arthurian tale through the Saxon invasion of Britain, and it's low fantasy. It's very realistic. I found that it's the best man-to-man action that I've ever read. Bernard Cornwell does a phenomenal job at writing action. Continuing my Wheel of Time journey is The Towers of Midnight, the 13th book, again by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. I could not tell you a thing about this book other than the Tower of Genji, I'm pretty sure. Perrin does some things, I'm pretty sure. It's mostly about all the forces coming together for the last battle. It's very predictable at this point. I don't feel like Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson added enough to these last few books. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Here, continue to the Powder Mage trilogy this year with Brian McClellan's The Crimson Campaign. I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I think all of these books are pretty much 5 out of 5 stars just because of the fun factor. They're not very long. The prose is very easy to read. The character work is not particularly complex, but they are such a joy to read that I can't give them less than a 5. I speed through them. I can't do anything other than speed through them. You know, Thomas and Taniel are great characters. The story is just so fun. Halfway through this list, and the 13th book, Anthony Ryan. This is my first Anthony Ryan book. I gave it a 3 stars out of 5. It starts really strong. It actually starts 5 out of 5 range, and then it just falls to the 3 at the middle and the end. The beginning is kind of like a battle school, religious school type of thing. That's all I really remember of it. I remember the characters being great, and I'm going to continue the series with Tower Lord. Looks like I'm trying out a bunch of different authors. This is my first Guy Gavriel K as well, right after Anthony Ryan. This book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. There are some tragedies in this book. It kind of reads a little bit like a Shakespearean play. Not at all, but the plot line kind of feels that way, just with how tragic and comedic it can be at times. There is an incest plot for no reason, which is weird, but the rest of the book is pretty decent. The book is so well written that it bumps it up to a 4 star. Looks like we're continuing the trend of high-scoring books. The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch is a 5 out of 5. Follows the weakest book in the series, Red Seas Under Red Skies. In this one, they get back to form. And they also meet a new character that you think you know from the first 2 books. The love between the two, as well as the love between John and Locke, is profound. Brotherly love is great in this book. It really makes you appreciate the friends that you have in real life. Michael J. Sullivan's Age of Myth is book 1 of the Legends of the First Empire. It is a prequel series to his Rhaenyra Revelations and such series. Now, I really did enjoy the Rhaenyra Revelations because it has a good brotherly love storyline. This one is a bit confusing, a bit convoluted, and not that great. I gave it a 2.5 stars. I'm not really loving the series, but I will continue. I'm giving Michael J. Sullivan a second try. Concurrently with Age of Myth, I was reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's pretty easy to read. There's a lot of science in it, but the science is explained maybe a little too much. It's a little hand-holdy at times, especially in the beginning. And then the ending plot line I didn't love. Not one specific plot line, but another one. There's conflict, and the conflict kind of just resolves quickly, so that's what drops it down from a 5 to a 4.5. Other than that, amazing story, and I'm excited for the movie. Jim Butcher, Jim Butcher, Jim Butcher. I've given you so many tries. And this one was alright. Full Moon is a detective story about werewolves, and that's about all I can tell you about it. I gave it a 3-star just because it was enjoyable enough for me to get through it. Oh boy, 3.5 out of 5. The 14th book, the culmination of the series, The Last Battle. A lot of it's a 5 out of 5. There's a lot of good things about this book. There's also some bad. I've got one of the biggest gripes of all time with this book, and I'm going to tell you. Spoiler alert. I don't believe that a 14-book long series should have a 1 epilogue resolution. We're on the home stretch here with Ender's Game. This is a 5 out of 5 story. And you think it's not because it's a bit YA, but you probably shouldn't let your YA children read this until they're on the higher end of YA. It's really a lot about psychopathy and how useful that is in society, especially in wartime. If you haven't read the book or watched the movie, the ending is just electric. It's great, and the character of Ender Wiggin is more grown up than he should be, but since the society is kind of built that way, it's believable enough that I really enjoyed this book. Bernard Cornwell's Excalibur is the 3rd book in his Warlord Chronicles trilogy. This one, the plot is way better than the first 2. The character interaction is way better. You get to see the resurgence of some characters like Guinevere, Cunaglass, Nimue, who kind of took a smaller step back in the 2nd book. Arthur also becomes a main character, and it's a 5 out of 5 book. I really can't say more other than read it, but if you have a squeamish stomach, then I would shy away from it a little. It doesn't hold its punches. The Autumn Republic by Brian McClellan, the 3rd book in his Powder Mage trilogy, is fun as the other ones, so I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I give it a 5. Just read these books. They're good. I've really got back in Star Wars reading this year, and I've really been wanting to. This is my next book in the chronological order that I have them. It's Dark Apprentice by Kevin J. Anderson. This book is not amazing. It is a Star Wars book, and none of them are amazing so far. But the characters are so well loved that it's hard to put a Star Wars book down once I start reading it. I didn't love the story, and it is YA. There's enough world building that I enjoy that I gave it a 3-star. Another book that I don't physically own that I read, and is not really a fantasy book, is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It takes a little bit to get into it just because the language is so different from our own, but it is a dystopian novel, so I understand it. We got to a certain point where the characters just started getting better and better. Linda and John the Savage and their dialogue with the director, especially John Savage's at the end, and then Linda's descent. It was just a great book and pretty introspective as well. Finally, the last book. I'm doing a reread of Game of Thrones this year, and this is going to be a 5 out of 5 stars too. I think if you've ever read this book, you know the plot can be a bit meandering, but the character work is so great, the writing great, the world is so great. You can't give it anything less than a 5. You know, this whole series is so good. I think I'm just a stan of the series, and I hate that it's not going to get finished, but I don't get everything that I want. I have enough here that I'm going to be okay. Thank you for coming and watching my video. If you have any comments on my ratings, please give them below. Comment on what I should read next. Thank you.